Hi, this is Sandra, and welcome back to the Sandaraella Leadership channel here on YouTube. We are continuing on with our episode on the evolution of change, part 2, and today we're going to be speaking about how change affects our organizations. Earlier on, if you can recall, we spoke about how change had involved our responses and the transitions that we go through. So, we want you to just take a moment to think back to the change that you may have been personally involved with as a leader for your organization, and what was all involved. Was this a planned change that had affected the organization, or was this something that came out of the blue and you had to respond? And what happened with your teams? What happened with your stakeholders? How did the public respond to it? Just keep those few points, just to make reference for later on in the presentation. And perhaps we'll be able to answer some of those details later on. So just take a moment, if you don't mind, to like, subscribe, to comment or share on our Sandaraella Leadership channel, and we look forward to hearing any of your feedback as we are continuing to develop our series. Thank you. Now we're just going to get my other slide ready. We'll be right back. It's been our experience that there are organizations that are prepared for change and they recognize that it's inevitable, it's going to happen. And so they may have their own contingency plans. They may have, done their mock kind of events, in order to practice these exercises that may impact their procedures or their production cycles. And then there's organizations, of course, that really don't want to do too much change at all. They are leery of the change. They just want to continue to keep things as it is. If it's not broken, why not just keep it as it is? Don't shake it up, So that is possible, and potentially they are probably doing okay. But the question is, can they be doing better? So with anything, we understand that change is a risk to the organization, good, bad. We make these projections and we're not 100% sure as to what the outcome is going to be. However, there are some who have interesting viewpoint, a different theory, and perhaps you also have your own theory or understanding around that as well too, around change. So some may view it as, if you don't do a little bit of a change now and again to your organization, you will get stagnant, right? You're not actually going to be moving the organization forward as a leader. And so that will kind of keep the organization and your business just a little bit behind in terms of what is happening in that very active market. So, so it all depends on your experience, and certainly would love to hear more about what you think about that. So, for organizations, we have certainly different types of theories around what does organizational change mean for us. And so I came across one from Peter Drucker. Certainly he has had a well-renowned Australian-American management consultant, educator, and author. And he's done many different books on leadership and organizational development that is really certainly worth the read. So one of the things he had indicated, which I thought was quite appropriate for this session, is that the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic. So that's a very interesting point that he brings about. He speaks about some interesting things when you think of that particular image of the boat there, and perhaps there's looks like maybe a captain or leader at the front who's standing up, and then you have the team, and those are different members of the team holding various expertise. And so the waters are choppy, and we're trying to navigate through those choppy waters. We also recognize that the ocean is not always rough. There are days that or times when the ocean may be relatively, buoyant and not so choppy. And so today it looks like it might be a little bit difficult. So those are things that we want to understand with our leadership journey. Certainly with organizations, they will change. They will react to change. They may navigate around change. They may have to face change right in front of them. So there's a number of things that we have to do in order to try and prepare ourselves for during these times of change. So there's many models that are available when we're looking at organizational change. Perhaps there's a model that you personally like to use. However, this particular one that we're looking at is one that looks at critical success. And that's something that we were able to pick up from Change First. And essentially it's broken into two key areas, two foundations. So the top one there for organization, it would speak about perhaps the senior leaders, perhaps the board of governors, other senior groups involved, and maybe some stakeholders as well. And so what we're looking at is a shared change of purpose. So the group understands that we need to look at this change for our organization. Perhaps it might be part of our organizational plans or strategic planning, any of those things that will propel us to make those change for the better for us. And then we're looking at the effective change leadership. So what does the leadership need to do in order to make that happen in all of their units within the organization? And then, of course, the commitment for that powerful engagement process is something that we would be looking at through our media departments, our marketing departments, maybe financing, human capital. There's all of these different things that we would need to look at to make that happen. So kind of providing the resources for that change and to carry out that message. So the latter half, of course, is the local part of it. So that would be comprising of the managers and also supervisors, maybe team leaders, also our teams, and some stakeholders as well, perhaps. And so there's basically a commitment that the teams and their leaders, their managers, are going to be adopting this change. They've bought into it. Potentially, they're going to do their level best to make those changes happen. There's a strong personal connection that they have with these changes. Perhaps it might be inspired through our leaders or through our now changing values for the organization. And so there's a commitment there. And then with that, of course, comes with the sustained personal performance. And that would be involving things like your upskilling, reskilling, looking at your coaches and mentors, trying to incorporate those pieces. Maybe, staffing need to have some other kind of experience, for them. Maybe you've re-scoped how the staff will be working during these changes. So those are pieces that we look at from a successful point of view. Some of the challenging parts, of course, we will have organizations, and many of us have experiences where there was a sense of loss. Maybe there's people are feeling a sense of grief that these changes are happening, and they're confused about it, and not sure what they need to do, you know? So these are some of the things that we need to look and be very aware that sometimes the communication and, we're so concerned about our own situation that we're not necessarily always looking at the greater good of the organization. It's always about us first individually. So one of the things that we have noted, which is really important, is for us to maintain good communication, because communication really is the conduit, it's the glue that really can drive the success for our change. Effective communication, once it's understood, it can really temper any kind of backlash from others who may be resistant to change. And leaders who implement good communication with their plans may potentially increase the engagement process. So that's what we're looking at. Communication really is an opportunity so that we're not putting people in a situation where they're fearful. We want to try and engage them. When the communication is, moving along better, then what happens is that people are wanting to engage more. They're having an opportunity to be heard, and their contributions, during this period of change are certainly welcome, and that's what will make successful teams. So once we have that, we have more collaboration, there's more opportunity, and but certainly for leaders, we need to be fairly transparent, during that time, so that people understand and they're not fearful of those changes, because that's how people will, really challenge the organizations. The organizations then at that time may be, struggling and clearly just trying to keep it clear, even though people may not understand it. Try and make them understand. Try and get their supports. If you're in a union-based kind of environment, as an example, you will want to connect with those union representatives who are speaking on behalf of the employees. Other professional organizations as well. It may be helpful because we want to be able to continue with the mandates that we have. So if there's two things that we would let you go with to think about is leaders during time of change within the organizations need to have some level or modicum of transparency. You may not be able to provide everything to all of your staff. It will depend on the situation. However, we need to be able to be transparent. Leaders need to kind of lean in and listen, check out what people are saying, and help them during those changing events. Understand that people go through a period of transition where it may be a period of anxiousness, not knowing. You might see a number of people going on sick leave, different things that are happening because they're having difficulty trying to respond to this. So try and think about that and have things in place, to anticipate those who might be resistant to change. And also it's very important, I think, for our staff to have that sense of trust of the organization. They have committed to the organization to do certain things and to be the employees and whatnot. And we need to do what we can to maintain that. And the last thing, of course, we need to continue maintaining and building on our teams and continuing with that momentum, just to continue to manage that. So we'd like to thank you for participating today, and we hope that you found some interesting details there, or just even a refresher for yourselves. And we will be adding some links, and we hope that you'll have an opportunity here to access some of our other dialogue through Sandaraella Leadership Training, our website, and also our podcast series. We're on Facebook and Instagram, of course, and we look forward to your continued commitment and support to our group. Thank you very much.